चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। ताप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे अनुवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। Hare Krishna. So Krishna has revealed in the 37th verse that it is only because of when the pure living entity, the soul, when it comes in contact with this material creation, and particularly the influence of the mode of ignorance and passion. Fueled by the mode of passion and ignorance, he is overwhelmed with the propensity of lust. And this lust is the greatest enemy. This is all devouring enemy. Last time we discussed what it means to devour. Devour means to completely eliminate or finish. You have seen a python? What it does, python? It will sleep. It will seem as if it is dead. It is inactive. But as soon as within the range, any living creature come, what it does? It completely devours. So deadly is this enemy which is in the form of lust. And to what extent and from where the existence of lust comes, Prabhupada has explained. I'm just connecting that by the misuse of independence, when in the human form of life in particular, when we misuse our independence. So this is all very much already there in the material nature. Material nature very subtly acts. This phenomena is so subtle that it cannot be seen. Not only it cannot be seen, it cannot be realized. Even though it is being experienced, every day we are becoming victimized by this very formidable foe of lust, but still we cannot realize. So when our propensity to serve the Lord is converted or is changed to sense enjoyment, then we come under the influence of lust. And how the lust impacts the soul, or what are the degrees of lust? It is not there for the same for everyone. It will depend on the level of consciousness of that particular living entity in this human form of life. So not everyone is in the same degree of lust. So Krishna explains that what are the various layers, or what are the various degrees, or what are the various levels of influences of lust. Very interesting. How the lust impacts and till what extent. And particularly, it is not there for every species of human life. It is different. Human form of life is considered to be the most evolved. This knowledge that we are discussing, how to be free from lust or how to conquer lust, can we call a cat or a dog here to sit and discuss? No. So human form of life is most evolved. Why? Because the layer of covering of lust is minimal. Just imagine. We are so much tormented by lust, even in this human form of life. But very interestingly, Bhagavad Gita will reveal that the lust influence is minimal in the human form of life and it can be easily eradicated. But in other forms of life, it is impossible. Although by human effort, it is still impossible. Because it is there in the mode of passion. And most of the human race is either in the form of, in the influence of mode of passion or ignorance. So till that time they remain under the influence of mode of passion and ignorance, it is not possible. So Krishna explains with very graphical examples how to illustrate and understand that how is the covering of lust, or how lust hides, or it, as I said, covers the swarupa or the original identity of the living entity. So Krishna gives the analogy of 3 examples Krishna gives. This is verse number 38. So we'll continue from verse number 38. Dhrumena hi avrite vahani yatha darsho malena cha yatha ulbena avrito garbhas tatha tenedam avrita. The first Krishna says is Dhrumena avriyate vahanir. Vahanir is fire. Agni, Agni is, Vahani is fire. So whenever you ignite fire, if you ignite guy's fire, you can immediately see the fire. But if you ignite fire through wood or through coal, then along with fire, what is there? There is smoke. So Dhrumena means smoke. Where does smoke come from? Smoke originates from where? Fire. If there is no fire, that means there is no smoke. But what does the smoke does? It covers the fire. So the first example Krishna is giving is like the fire which is avrite. Avrite means it is covered. Anavrit means to uncover. And avrit means to cover. So what the lust does, like the smoke covers the fire. So what is the fire? The fire is the living entity in the form of spirit soul. But it is being covered by smoke. So as fire is covered by smoke, this is one example. Can we see the soul? Can we realize we are the spirit soul? No. We know, we have information, we have knowledge, but we lack realization. Why? Because the smoke in the form of our sense gratificatory desire, it has covered. It has covered our real identity as spirit soul. So we cannot realize, or we do not act at the level of soul. So this is one level. But how difficult it is to inflame the fire within the smoke? Is it difficult? Is it difficult? Please be here. Be attentive. Try to enter into this understanding. If you want to have fire within the smoke, what do you have to do? What do you have to do? Huh? You just have to fan it. Little bit of fanning and you can see the flame ablaze. So this is the preliminary level. This is the first level, which is easily removable. One can uncover the smoke to get fire. Isn't it? Add little bit of ghee more. First, what will come? Smoke will come. But if you inflame the smoke, smoke will be removed and fire will be inflamed. So that is the first level of covering. Second, Krishna says, is yatha darsho malena cha. Darsha means the mirror. So every day we have to see the mirror, isn't it? How many of you, have a day without seeing the mirror even once? Anyone? You don't see the mirror throughout the day? Because you don't shave. But can you shave without mirror? Can you brush without mirror? We need to see the mirror. Yeah. If we are conscious to see whether our teeth is clean or not. If we are not conscious, then there is no need. We want to see whether our tongue is clean or not, isn't it? So the second example Krishna is giving, if the mirror, if you want to see yourself, but if the dust, malena means the contamination or the dust which is covering the mirror. So if the mirror is there and it is covered with dust, even if you stand in front of the mirror, can you see yourself? Can you see the soul? No, you cannot see the soul. So that is an even higher degree of covering. Because unless and until the dust is removed, you cannot see yourself in the mirror. So that is more intense. And then Krishna gives another example, which is even a more deeper penetration of lust. It is yatha ulbena avrito garbhas. Garbha means the womb. All of us, we are taking birth from the womb of our mother. So the child who is within the womb of the mother, can you see the child? By any way, can you see the child? No. And what is the situation of child within the womb of the mother? He is completely helpless. What is this? Does he have any option? Does he have any, freedom? Nothing. He is completely helpless. So Krishna is saying, as fire is covered, see the translation, as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. So the lust is so formidable that it makes the living entity become completely clueless and completely helpless. I'll give you some practical examples. Some what comes in my memory. Any one of you have heard about the name Mike Tyson? Have you heard the name Mike Tyson? He was a very big sports celebrity, world heavyweight boxing champion. At the age of 19 or 20, just at the age of 19 or 20, he was the world's ever youngest world champion. And he was so strong, or he was so skilled in his sport, that is heavyweight boxing, not ordinary boxing, world heavyweight boxing. By the age of 20, he won every title. His opponents, whoever came into the ring, they could not survive even for one round. Not even for, he would, smash them, or he will punch them so severely that they could not even sustain for one round. Boxing is in many rounds. I don't know exactly, but it is up to side 12 rounds. Any one of you, if you would have done boxing. But he was so formidable. He was so aggressive. And he had such raw power that he would completely demolish his opponent in first round. They could not even sustain for a few seconds. But as he became popular, as he became a celebrity, he had the best of, resources with him, money, sponsorship, and, whatnot. But he was overwhelmed with lust. He even married one of the most beautiful US film actors. But this lust ruined his career. He molested some other ladies and he was put into prison. And his life was completely, ruined. He was sentenced to very rigorous punishment and fine. Why? Because see this personality. No one in the world could withstand his might, his power, his strength, his skill. He would smash his opponent within few seconds. But he was overpowered by lust. And his entire career was ruined. You can go Google it, search it. It's so formidable is lust. And where was the enemy? It was not outside. This enemy is inside. This is Krishna is saying, there are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which his pure consciousness is obscured. Obscured means covered or hidden. So what are the 3 degrees? The first degree is smoke covering the fire. Okay. What is the next degree? Yeah, dust covering the mirror. And the greatest degree is considered to be the embryo, which is covered by the womb. Okay. This covering is but lust under different manifestations like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, and womb about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, this is the first level, the impact is minimal. Impact is minimal. It can still be managed. Why? Because you can kindle fire from smoke easily. In other words, when the living entity, when lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be a little perceived. So the smoke means that there is fire. The spark is there. Otherwise, can there be any smoke without fire? There is a saying also, no? There is no smoke without fire. The evidence of smoke means that there is fire. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. So why the human life is considered to be like the fire which is covered by the smoke? Because in this human form of life, one can connect with the Supreme Lord. There is all possibility, there is all, accessibility through, in this human form of life, one can become God realized. So even if he becomes slightly awakened, how? By practicing the process of Krishna consciousness, he can revive, he can rekindle the fire, he can remove the smoke. The smoke is in the form of lust. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. Although fire is necessary where there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. So when the fire is not fully inflamed, at that time the smoke can cover. When the fire is fully ablaze, then there is no smoke. So initially, that means that when the living entity has not become Krishna conscious, when he is not practicing the path of Krishna consciousness, the impact of lust is mostly there in the form of smoke. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. But as he progresses, as he performs his devotional practice or devotional service, very easily that smoke can be removed and the fire can be rekindled. But the second stage, the dust on the mirror, refers to the cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. So the second level is more deeper. So the first level is compared to the senses. I will comment. So if you see our structure, how we are, so there are three levels. What we see is the gross body. What we see and what we interact with each other at the gross level, at the bodily level. So body means what? Senses. But do we only interact at the body level? There is interaction of mind also, isn't it? So that is more subtle, but it is visible. Can we see the mind intelligence? We cannot see. That is the subtle. That is the second level. It is called the subtle body. This is the gross body, which is made of senses. And then beyond the gross body is the subtle body. Subtle body, the prominent mechanism that makes the subtle body work is the mind. The mind is the mechanism. So the dust on the mirror refers to the cleaning process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. And the best way to remove the dirt from the mirror, that is from the mind. So senses control is easier than control of the mind. I will explain why and how. So the best process to clean the mirror of the mind, which is having so much of dust or dirt or contamination, the best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. By this chanting process. Can we see the mind? No. Can we purify the mind? No. But this mantra purifies. If we believe in the words of the Supreme Lord and his representative, the Acharyas, then the only way to clean the mind of his contamination, which is there from millions and millions of lives. So don't think little bit of chanting. मैं तो एक राउंड करता हूँ, मैं हर संडे करता हूँ, या मैं हर एक एकादशी करता हूँ. That is not sufficient, because the mind's mirror is filled with dust. And what is this dust, which is contamination? The aspiration for sense gratification, for sense enjoyment. So the best process to chant the holy names of the Lord. And the third level is the embryo covered by the womb, is the analogy illustrating a helpless position. For the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of living condition can be compared to that of the tree. So Prabhupada gives an analogy to what Krishna is giving the examples. That this helpless condition is of the trees. Like the tree is there. Now we have heat. Now the temperature is almost coming to 40 degrees, or it may even climb to higher than 40 degrees. So what we avoid? We avoid going outside. But what about trees? What about trees? They are helpless. They have to remain outside. Whether it is 40 or whether it is 50, whether they are dried or they are burned, but they cannot move. They cannot move. So the third degree is of those where consciousness, try to understand. The level of consciousness of the trees is covered. It is called Avrit Chetana. Chetana is of 5 levels. First is called the Avrit. The word also here is coming is Avritam. Yatha Ulbena Avrito Garbha. So Avrit means which covers. So the lowest level of consciousness is called the covered consciousness, like the trees. Then there is Sankuchit Chetana. Sankuchit Chetana. It is covered, that is called Shrankan. You understand what is Shrankan? No? Shrunk, something which has been shrunk. That is compared to the beast and the birds, the animal kingdom. The lowest level is the plants, and higher than that is the animals, birds, reptiles, so many. There are how many million species of such species? Many, many. There are 2 million species of animals. It is given in Padma Purana. Sthavara Labalakshani, that there are 9 lakh species of aquatics. So all this they are in the Sankuchit Chetana, in the shrunken consciousness. Then higher than that is the budding consciousness. Budding. Budding, you understand? It has the potency to blossom, but it is still not blossomed. So from here the human level of consciousness begins. The human. So bud is what? It is flower, but it is actually not flower. Can you find fragrance in bud? No. But the same bud, when it is blossomed, it will give you the fragrance. But the fragrance is what? It is covered. A good example. This is one good example. So that consciousness is called the budding level of consciousness. And if we try to ignite Krishna consciousness, if we start to practice Krishna consciousness, then it is the blossoming consciousness. Very beautiful. It is the blossoming. The bud starts to open up and blossom. And when we become fully Krishna conscious, then it is called the fully blossomed consciousness. What is the fully blossomed consciousness? That we know who we are, that we are spirit soul, and we also know who the Supreme Lord is, and what is our relation, what is our connection. And we happily live in that relationship. So that is the fully blossomed consciousness. So human life begins from the level of budding consciousness, but it has to be blossomed. How it has to be blossomed? By removing the contamination, by removing the smoke, by igniting the fire of Krishna consciousness. This is what Prabhupada is explaining here. That the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. We cannot, try to invoke Krishna consciousness in the trees. It's very difficult. Some devotees try. Some devotees' consciousness is very high. Once my teacher was explaining to me that one of his devotee friend, he had a tree in his garden. So what he would do to invoke the Krishna consciousness of the tree, he would pour in the root of the tree offered water. Water which is offered to Krishna, he would pour in the root of the tree. See what level of consciousness. Many times we distribute prasad. So the prasad also is eaten by many animals. So if the animals, they eat prasad, then also there is possibility for them to be invoked in Krishna consciousness. Many times we see in our temple some pigeons, 1 or 2 pigeons. They are very stubborn. However, we may try to take them out they come back. Why? Because they come and they want to take darshan of the Lord and they want to hear the kirtan or Srimad Bhagavad. We have spent so much of effort and energy and resources, but again and again they find some way to come. Why? Because some slight remnant of Krishna consciousness is there in them. The example is given of Bharat Maharaj. When he went into the body of deer, so where he was? He was in the Pulag Ashrama, where the sages were always reciting the glorification of the Lord. He did not go anywhere else. But it is very difficult. In normal case, it is impossible. It is impossible. So this human form of life is the only chance in 8,400,000 species of life to invoke our Krishna consciousness, is to remove the dust from the mirror, which is our mind, and is also to remove the smoke from the fire. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. So please understand why Krishna is giving these examples. Because if we fail to invoke Krishna consciousness in this life, then please be prepared to go in this lower species of life, where the lust will completely cover. So this human form of life, one of the objective of human form of life is to be free from lust. And if we remain lusty, and for an ordinary man, till what time the lust influences? I told you the story last time of Birbal and Akbar. Did I tell you? I think I told you. You forgot. Huh? It is there for a conditioned soul till his last breath of life. Why? Because we will come to know this is the punishment given to the soul. What is the punishment? The punishment is in the form of lust. See, very subtle. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that don't come under the influence of lust. What is the reflection of lust? Is attachment. That I will not fight. So not fighting is an exhibition of lust. Why? Because he is refusing to perform his duty in the garb of his attachment. So Krishna is saying, you will go to hell. Already Krishna has told that in the second chapter. Papam eva shriyas asman. So Krishna has said that if you do not perform your duty, you will definitely be infected by sin. And what makes us perform sin is this lust. So Krishna is diagnosing that why lust is the most formidable enemy, because it prevents us from performing our duty, our dharma. What is the duty and the dharma of the soul? To serve the Supreme Lord. And coming in this human form of life, we are refusing or we are rejecting that I don't want to serve. I want to be served. Why should I serve? If the Lord is there, if he is supreme, he has the power, then he should serve me. Why should I serve him? This is the aspiration of the conditioned soul. And for such aspiration or for such disobedience, he gets the punishment in the form of influence of lust. So the covered mirror is compared to the bird and the beast. So Krishna, Prabhupada is explaining. So smoke covering the fire is compared to the human form of life. And the dust which is covering the mirror is the bird and the beast. And the embryo which is covered by the womb is compared to the trees and the plants. In the form of human being, the living entity may revive a little Krishna consciousness, and if he makes further development, the fire of spiritual life can be kindled in this human form of life. By carefully handling of the smoke in the fire, fire can be made to blaze. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In this human form of life, one can conquer the enemy lust by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. This is the only solution. You try anything and everything. People have tried, but there is no way. The only solution is cultivation of Krishna consciousness. And how Krishna consciousness has been cultivated? Not independently, not whimsically, under able guidance. We will come to that. Maybe not in this class and maybe in the next class. I will discuss that in detail. So without guidance, there is no cultivation of Krishna consciousness. If one is thinking on his own, he can become Krishna conscious. He is in a, what is a fool's paradise? A fool's paradise, have you heard? Fool's paradise. हाँ, तो क्या मुंगेरी लाल के हसीन सपने. सुना? You've seen that TV serial used to come. Dinesh, you might be knowing. Huh? People are daydreaming. Akash pushpayate. Like somebody is trying to find flowers in the sky. Where can you find flower? In the sky? No, you can find flower in the garden, in the earth. You cannot cultivate in the sky. So here Prabhupada is saying that in this human form of life, one can conquer the enemy lust by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. And no guidance, no cultivation, no question of any rescue or any reprieve from lust. Every day the lust will keep spiraling and increasing. I'll give you some more examples. I gave you example of one person. He was so successful, but his entire success was overwhelmed or overturned by the forces of lust. Now I'll talk to you about the most powerful person in terms of position, not in terms of raw power or bodily power, but in terms of positioning. The President of America. The second most popular president of American history after independence of America has been Mr. Bill Clinton. You know, Mr. Bill Clinton? He was such a natural global leader and the undisputed president of the United States of America, which still by far is the most powerful and the most influential country in the entire globe. And he was due to be elected next term almost unopposed because he was so popular. But what ruined him? There's his opponent. The other opposition party. There's any political enemy. His intern, his secretary. What was her name? I don't remember the name. Lewinsky. Monica Lewinsky, who was almost of the age of Bill Clinton's daughter. But he was attracted to her. And this, this kind of relationship was exposed. And it became a national shame for the Americans. And he had to step down. His political career was over. So at what level and when the lust will attack and in what form it will attack and to what extent it will damage, it is impossible to estimate. Why? Because why the lust is the most formidable enemy? In the next verse, Krishna explains. Why? One may ask, no. The person who is very poor, he said, what lust? I am struggling to get meal to survive. My greatest enemy is poverty. What lust? But no. Krishna is saying lust is the formidable enemy. Why? Because what lust does? Next verse, Krishna says, Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavarina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. Again, Krishna is focusing on this aspect of avritam jnanam etena. Avrit means to cover or to hide. What the lust does, that it covers the jnana. Jnana means the intelligence or the knowledge. The knowledge of the living entity in the form of human life is covered by his enemy lust. What is the knowledge? What is the most confidential knowledge? That we are spirit soul. And spirit soul is connection with Supreme Lord. But do we realize that? Do we apply that? Do we experience that? We know. पता है ना? किसी से पूछो तुम कौन हो? जब आप शमशान जाते हैं तो क्या बोलते हैं? क्या हुआ? वो आत्मा चली गई. किधर थी आत्मा? आत्मा से परिचय हुआ क्या? किसके साथ संबंध था? शरीर के साथ। शरीर तो पड़ा। When the body is dead, even the family members, they cannot keep the body inside the house. If they have attachment with the body, कोविड में सारा एक्सपोज हो गया ना, कोविड में सारा अटैचमेंट एक्सपोज हो गया। जो लोग कोविड से गए, उनके फैमिली मेंबर्स शमशान भी नहीं गए, मालूम है ना? The body was not claimed. पता है या नहीं पता? हमारे कुछ डिवोटीज गए थे, एक डिवोटी है हमारे, वो खुद गए थे, उन्होंने कुछ बॉडीज को लास्ट राइट्स दिए। क्यों? क्योंकि कोई घर वाला जाने को तैयार नहीं था। क्यों? क्योंकि डर क्या लग रहा था कि उनका जो क्या है वो वायरस, उनका वायरस उनकी बॉडी से हमारी बॉडी में ना आ जाए। तो ये जो ज्ञान है, दिस नॉलेज दैट वी आर नॉट दिस बॉडी, इट इज कवर्ड बाय लस्ट। तो समझ लीजिए, everyone in this world who is existing, to some extent he is covered by lust. Material existence means lust. Unless and until we become transcendental, we become completely spiritual, the influence and the covering avritam jnanam etena, it is covered. If we have not been able to revive our relationship with Krishna, that means the influence of lust exists. So it is jnanino nitya vairina. Vari means enemy. Because enemy does, last time we discussed, what enemy does? It does the maximum harm. It does the maximum damage. So what is the greatest damage? That our knowledge of being the spirit soul is covered by lust. And what kind of enemy it is? It is not ordinary enemy. It is Nitya Vairi. Nitya, you understand? Huh? Always, constant. Why? Because it is within. You cannot block him. You cannot stop him. Or you cannot win over him. He is from within attacking you. When he is attacking you, every moment is attacking you. How? In the form of Kama Rupena. How the lust attacks? In the form of Kama. And also, it is Dushpurena. Dushpurena means it is never satisfied. How? Analenacha, like a fire. In the fire, if you feed the fire fuel, can the fire terminate? No. There were some foolish people who were saying, what did they say? Sambhog se samadhita. They are just trying to go against what the Supreme Lord is saying. It will never happen. If you fuel the fire, will it be terminated? Never terminated. Never be terminated. So Krishna is saying that this is the most formidable enemy, because thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness become covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So if you try to fuel the lust, what will happen? Smoke will become dust, and dust will become embryo. Then you cannot get out. Then you are in a helpless position. Let us see what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. It is said in the Manusmriti that the lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. By any amount of sense enjoyment. The more you try to satisfy the lust, the more it becomes demanding. More. Just as the fire is never extinguished by the constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex. And thus, this material world is called Maithune Agar. Agar, you understand? Which is always burning. Agar. And this material world is compared to Maithune Agar because this lust is always burning in the heart. So this material existence means that one has this burning desire to enjoy. And as we discussed last time also, that the living entity in this human form of life, in any form of life, his highest level of sense enjoyment is the perception of sex. So this material world is called Maithune Agar, or the shackles of sex life. And this sex life is what? Shackle. Shackle समझते हैं? बेड़ियां. बांध लिया जाता है. किसको बांध लेते हैं? सेक्स लाइफ किसको बांधती है? हाँ, आत्मा को. किसमें बांध देती है? शरीर में. इन दी बॉडी. बंधे हैं या नहीं बंधे हैं? अभी हमारी क्या कंडीशन है? We are all under the shackles of lust, sex life. In the ordinary prison house, Prabhupada explain करते हैं, in the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. देखा है ना? जो criminals हैं उनको क्या करके रखते हैं? हाँ, उनको उसमें prison cell में रखते हैं, वो बाहर नहीं जा सकते. और कई बार उनको क्या लगा देते हैं? वो handcuffing कर देते हैं, chains लगा देते हैं, so that they cannot run, they cannot go out. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Very revolutionary statement by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada बिल्कुल यहाँ reason बता रहे हैं, पूरा diagnosis कर रहे हैं. Those who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord, जो भगवान के इस दिए हुए प्रिंसिपल को, इस लॉ को नहीं स्वीकार करता, उसको पनिशमेंट कैसे मिलता है? लस्ट के फॉर्म में. सिंपल. कुछ कर सकते हैं? कुछ नहीं कर सकते, बेबस है, कंप्लीटली हेल्पलेस. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence of a living entity. So this scientific innovation and invention, what it means? Try to disobey the law of the Lord. अभी गर्मी हो रही है तो क्या लगा लिया? एसी. ह्यूमन लाइफ किस लिए है? तपस्या करने के लिए. तपस्या कर रहे हैं? नहीं, एसी एंजॉय कर. तो हर चीज को क्या कर रहे हैं? आर्टिफिशियली वी आर ट्राइंग टू ओवर पावर द मटीरियल नेचर. So all comfort or all conveniences that we are seeking, what is this attempt? This is an attempt to go against the law of nature. So what is it? It is obedience or disobedience? Disobedience. Very subtle. Not only at gross level, at subtle level, every time we are disobedient. Every day we are disobedient. Every moment we are disobedient. What is nature's arrangement? We are trying to refute. Can we refute? Are we able to refute? No. But this is what Prabhupada is saying, that advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of material existence. Material existence means lust. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within this material world. So this is the most heavy punishment that the jiva gets for not being obedient to the orders or the principles of the law. If we do not perform Krishna consciousness in this human form of life, then what will happen? We will be more and more influenced and captivated by the forces of lust. Lust also, as I explained many times, it is not only sex attraction. It is in the form of greed. I'll give you an example of one more sports personality. How many of you watch cricket? You know cricket? India में सभी लोग जानते हैं cricket क्या है. There is one team called South Africa. After many years, South Africa was reinstated to be allowed to play international cricket. And till date, after the resumption of the South African cricket team, the most successful South African captain, you know who was the most successful? Nancy Cronia. After so many years of being, outside international cricket, he made a comeback and he made his team one of the strongest team of the international time at that time. They were able to beat Australia and England. But what happened? Hansi Cronia, this lust in the form of greed. He was caught in match fixing. And because of match fixing, he was banned. And then he died. So much of insult, so much of tribulation. Then finally, a plane crash was there and he died. So many. And next, I will tell you the examples of devotees who did not come under the influence of lust. He was so successful. He was the most successful captain of that country. He would have got money automatically. But because of this lust, when the lust you try to fulfill, it comes in the form of greed. A big danger. Whenever you try to fulfill the lust, it will convert into greed. It will convert into wrath. And he did this act of match fixing. And he was caught. Like Mr. President Bill Clinton was caught. He was exposed. So this fellow was also exposed. And then he died very unceremoniously. So very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. So many, every celebrity, so-called, they're not celebrity. They are not celebrity. They are victims. They are disobedient people. They are those who are punished by the laws of the material nature. And we are so foolish that we consider them celebrity. They are not to be celebrated. From there, we should learn from these people. That is why you see celebrities, what kind of life they have. They have a complete hollow life. Only show and no substance. Here Krishna is saying that when one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of sense enjoyment. So we should not be swayed, or we should not be attracted. Like a moth. A moth is attracted by fire. And what happens? He gets burned in the fire. So if we are thinking, the man is thinking I can enjoy with woman, and the woman is thinking I can enjoy with man. I can have his beauty, I can have his property. Both are destined to go to hell and suffer. They cannot enjoy. Prabhupada says in one lecture, he says, what enjoyment can one have? If you are uniting two urine passing organs, just think on it. Just think on it deeply. You are trying to unite two urine passing organs and you are thinking you can enjoy. What is their abominable level of consciousness? What is urine? It's a waste. But look, this is the lust. This is how we are fooled by lust. It is avritam jnanam etena. The knowledge and the consciousness of the living entity is covered by lust. And what is the cause of lust? Is disobedience to the laws of the Supreme Lord. To the extent we are not agreeing or accepting the principles and the laws of the Supreme Lord in this human form of life, we will be punished by the cycles of lust. And believe me, you can try anyone in this world. You try any expert. Can anyone cure lust? You pay the entire resource of the world. There is no way. There is no remedy. The only remedy, Prabhupada is saying, one can conquer this enemy lust by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. If we do that, we can minimize the influence of lust. So where the lust resides? Why you cannot conquer lust? Krishna explains. Why lust is so formidable. First, why lust is so formidable? Because it covers our intelligence. It covers our intelligence. So, okay, one may say, okay, my intelligence may be covered. But what about my mind? What about my senses? Intelligence is covered, na? I can act on the level of senses. But if the lust is there in the intelligence, it covers the mind and the senses. How? Krishna explains in the next verse. Indriyani manobuddhir asya asyadhishtanam uchyate eter vimochate sha jnanam avrit dehinam. The senses, the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of the lust. When the lust is inside, it does not sit only on intelligence. When it is inside, it will capture everything. It will not leave anything. The lust resides in the senses. So even if you remove the lust from the intelligence, where it is in the senses. Senses means in the eyes. That is why the eye is always vying to see beautiful form. Why? Because lust is there. The ear is always wanting to hear something good. Why? The lust is there. The tongue is always wanting to taste something because the lust is there. In every organ, in every senses, the lust is residing. So how can you conquer or how can you keep the lust aside? It is there in the senses. It is there in the mind. We are thinking the mind is our best friend. It is the sitting place of lust, our greatest enemy. So if we are being guided by our mind, we are being guided by lust. Danger. Very big danger. And of course, the intelligence are the sitting places of lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. The enemy has captured different, what to do? It is 9 o'clock. Should I take few questions and then wrap up? We'll discuss more than an hour. But the more we discuss, the more there is possibility that some awakening can come. Otherwise, this covering is so heavy. This layer of lust is so formidable that even after hearing, hardly anything penetrates. Because, as I said, if the skin is very thick, like I gave the example of hippo or a rhino. If a hippo or a rhino, you throw a rose, what will happen to them? Nothing will happen to them. What you have to do? You have to have something very pointed and sharp. Then only you can pierce through the skin. So this covering of lust is so heavy that little discussion, little talk, little contemplation, it is removed by the covering of the lust. So in short, from where we have to start? We have to start from the lowest level. What is the lowest level? The senses. Krishna will explain. So what we have to do at the first level, how to stop lust? By regulating the senses. Can we regulate the mind? Can you stop the mind from thinking? Can you stop the mind from thinking lusty desires? No. Can you stop? You try whatever. The more you try, the more it will think. But what is possible? Possible to regulate the senses. Please see how Krishna is giving the progression. The senses, the mind, the intelligence are the sitting places. So from where we have to begin? We have to begin from where it is at the lowest level, where the influence is minimal. And if we do not try in this human form of life, and we waste this human form of life, then it is impossible. In other form of life, it is not possible. Like the mirror which is covered by dust, or the embryo which is covered by the wounds. So this budding consciousness is the human consciousness. It has to be blossomed by cultivation of Krishna consciousness. How? By performing sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is performed how? By the body and senses. By the body and senses. Okay. So we will try and complete it, there are 3 verses, 40, 41 and 42. No, there are 4 verses. So we'll go slowly because it's most important. Krishna is talking about our greatest enemy. But tell me, how many of us are still believing that he is our greatest enemy? We are not believing someone who has done wrong to us is our greatest enemy. We're still believing that? Someone who has insulted us or someone who has stopped us from doing what we desire to do, he is our greatest enemy. But Krishna is saying the greatest enemy is inside. The invisible shackle. Okay, so I'll stop here and I'll invite you to inquire, to ask questions or any doubt if you have. Wait, someone else may ask. Online also you can ask. Hare Krishna. So if we are not practicing under guidance, under rules and regulations, a clear evidence of influence of it is lust which will not allow us to do that. Not simple. Even if you try, it will be difficult. Yeah, very good. The four basic rules that are given to come to the human platform of life is first is no meat eating. Why? The principle is mercy, daya. Daya sarva bhuteshu. Who can perform dharma or duty? That person who has daya in his heart, who has mercy. And if he is merciless, if he is slaughtering the throat of helpless animals and consuming, where is the question of daya? He is disobedient to the law of the Lord. So will he be rewarded or will he be punished? So that is first principle, is no meat eating, no killing. So that is why we only take Krishna Prasad. The sooner the better. Because if you don't do that, then the desire for sense gratification and sinful act will continue. The second is no intoxication. Intoxication means no liquor, no tobacco, nothing which stimulates our senses to enjoyment. What do people do after consuming liquor? They all do abominable, heinous acts. Why? Because they become animal. Because the control of mind and intelligence is even more bewildered. We even don't take tea and coffee because they are also stimulating, isn't it? They're stimulating. So we don't take that. So no intoxication. So no intoxication means that we can perform tapasya. Tapasya purifies the heart, the mind and the intelligence. So no intoxication. Third is no gambling. No speculation. Not try to earn money by any unfair means. That is a strict principle. Not by misrepresentation or not by cheating. Everyone in this world is wanting to have easy money. I'll give you an example of one more person. You've heard about Harshad Mehta. He is the one who started the stock market culture in India. Previously, normal man had nothing to do with stock market. The stock market was for a particular class of men. It was not for general men. He was the one who started the stock market for everyone. And he made billions and billions of rupees and dollars. But all of it was speculation and gambling. And he was exposed. And when he was exposed, he was put into prison and he died in prison. Why? Again, lust. He was captured by lust. So no gambling. This is only. See, tell me one thing. How money is to be made? Through honest means. Through dharma. Is this dharma? This is gambling. Let me guarantee you one thing. You can never win. Finally, you will remain a loser. Not only a loser, you will lose everything. No one has ever won. It is only his foolishness. This is the bewilderment. He is thinking, I can make money. This is the business for committing sin. If you commit sin, what will happen to you and the people in general? They will go to hell. They are already suffering. What is the situation of people? Are they happy or are they in suffering state? What is their mental equilibrium? Why? Because they are performing sinful act. And why they are performing sinful act? Because of this lust. We depend on the Supreme Lord. Why? Because if we perform our duty, our dharma, definitely all the necessities will be fulfilled. This is what Krishna has explained in the 3rd chapter. We have not understood it. Yagya arthat karmano anyatra lokoayam karmadana. And if you perform yagya, then all the demigods, they are bound to give you the results. But if you don't perform yagya, and if you perform pap, then you will suffer. So 3rd is no gambling. And the 4th is no illicit relationship. No husband, without husband and wife, no man and woman can come together. That is there in animal society. There is no institution of marriage. But today, the man has advanced to become animal. They don't believe in the institution of marriage. Why? Because marriage means responsibility. Marriage means sacrifice. They don't want to sacrifice. Pashu, they have nothing to sacrifice. They can just, roam around. Free sex. And the Supreme Court has a petition from India. India, the state of culture. Man wants to have relationship with man. Gay. This is the advancement. Then they will want to get it legitimate between man and animal. That is more advancement. This is the modern advancement. And the Supreme Court is saying, we don't want to take decision. Let the Parliament take the decision. This is the level of advancement. Why? Because see, lust, this is lust. It has covered the intelligence. It has covered the intelligence of the living entity in this human form of life. They become so foolish, so dull. Prabhupada is saying, uniting 2 urine passing organs and thinking we can be happy. This is the level of intelligence. Now, please understand what are the 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, eating only Krishna Prasad. No intoxication, not even tea and coffee. We don't exist on tea and coffee. We don't drink tea and coffee. What is less in our life? We get more. We get nectar. We get Amrit. But if you stop taking wish, then only you can get Amrit. If you want to take wish, then how can you access Amrit? Any doctor has advised to take tea and coffee. Have you ever heard in prescription, please take coffee 4 times or tea 10 times in a day? Why we are inclined? This is lust. It has covered our intelligence. Such simple things we fail to understand. So 4 regulative principles are required to come to the human platform. So presently you see, we are not at the human. This human race, that is why Prabhupada said very strongly that this human race has gone to cats and dogs. You cannot explain dharma to cats and dogs. Can you explain? They cannot understand. That is why when we preach, there will be few. There will be very few. That is what Krishna is saying, Manushya nam sahastreshu kashchid yatati siddha. Yatatam api siddha nam kashchid mam veti tattva. Very few. Because they are not on the human platform. Their aspiration is just like animal. Very difficult to awake an animal and make him become human. But Krishna consciousness is very powerful. So please apply. It is not for just hearing, for armchair speculation. Prabhupada says philosophy is not for armchair speculation. It is for application. So this 4 regulative principle must be applied. If 1 minute, if you apply this 4 regulative principle, then only, if you don't apply, what is the point in asking? You don't get a benefit. If you want to swim, you have to enter into the water. Then only you will be able to swim. Otherwise, whatever YouTube you may see, whatever tutorials you may take, you will never be able to swim. And when there will be flood, you will be drowned. And the flood is going to come. That is death. It is inevitable. So when the death comes, it will drag us to lower level of consciousness. Very important to awaken and arise. So the 4 regulative principles brings us to the human platform, where we can practice dharma to perform our duty. And what obstructs our dharma, our duty, is this lust. We will discuss about more how to regulate lust in the next session. Krishna will explain how to regulate it by regulating the senses first. How to regulate the senses? 4 regulative principles. It is natural. It is artificial. It is only under the influence of lust that we are not observing the 4 regulative principles. Okay, what is your next question? Next time. Okay. Yes, there, Shilpro. What is your question? You know why? Lust is the greatest enemy. Why? How? Yeah. How does the lust influence us? I'm asking all of you. Huh? Yes. Covering the intelligence. See, Krishna has already said, Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha Sangasteshu Pujayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodha Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammoha Smriti Vibhrama Smriti Bhamshat Buddhi Nasha Buddhi Nash Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. This Buddhi Nash comes from where? Lust. See, Buddhi Nash of Bill Clinton, Buddhi Nash of Tyson, Buddhi Nash of Hansi Kronia. But we don't learn lessons from anyone. Do we learn? We don't learn. Why? Because Buddhi is already Nash. So how can we learn? If Buddhi will be there, then only we will learn. Na? So why it is the most formidable enemy? Because it does the Buddhi Nasha and Pranashyati. Whenever you get the infatuation of lust, beware, it has come to damage. But it is not easy. It is impossible. By human effort, it is impossible. Why? Because it is already a punishment. We have every moment that desire. So what we have to do? Every moment we have to engage in Krishna service. Yena kena prakena mana Krishna niveshet. So if you lead a life which is under regulation and under guidance, then where is the chance? But if you are independent, what you will do? You will be only influenced by lust. Okay, I'll stop. It is 9:15. It is getting late. So thank you very much. It is a reminder for me, everyone, that how formidable enemies are lust. And this is the punishment. This is the punishment for the living entity, those who are disobedient. So at least we should realize now in this life that we should further not live a independent, whimsical life and remain under guidance. Thank you very much. Any question from all of you online? Anyone? Any burning questions? So please ask. Otherwise, we will discuss next time. There should be many questions. Because the most formidable factor of our fall down is lust. And every moment we are falling, but what we are doing? We are hiding, we are covering. We are not allowing or we are not sharing that how much the lust is impacting. That is also very dangerous. We'll discuss more on it when we meet next in the next Saturday session. Till then, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad